All right, hello and welcome to the August 25th, 2021 Oak Grove Community Council General Meeting. My name is Joseph Edge, I'm the chair. We have a very full agenda tonight, and so we're gonna get right into it. And the first thing I'm gonna do is ask our board members to introduce themselves. First, I'm Joseph Edge, I'm the chair, and I live in the River Forest neighborhood. Valerie, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Valerie Chapman. I'm the vice chair, and I live on Evergreen, a block and a half from the trolley trail.
Jane, could you introduce yourself?
My name is Jane Civiletti, and I live on Fair Oaks Ave. I'm the treasurer.
Rich, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rich Nippon. I live in Oak Grove, a few blocks south of the Fred Meyers, and I'm a general board member.
Mark, could you introduce yourself? You're muted, Mark.
Sorry. This is Mark Elliott. I'm a general board member as well and live off of Concord Road and River Road.
And Danielle, our acting secretary, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, Danielle Lohman. I live on the corner of 21st and Evergreen.
Awesome, thanks everybody. So the first presenter of the evening, actually the first thing we're gonna do is get into our officer reports. And so get back into this really quick. And see, Danielle, actually, you're up with the membership update.
Ooh, I wasn't prepared because I'm just the acting secretary. I don't know. I don't have any, I didn't have any new members. What else do we normally give in this update? I apologize.
New voting members.
I don't have any yet. I'm working on a nice spreadsheet so that I can check everyone off and let everyone know. So I do want to, I'll give you that update. Should have it ready by our next meeting.
And then we also sent out the minutes for our July 28th meeting, the draft minutes, and those went out with the meeting announcement email. Do we have any corrections to those?
I would like to correct.
Feel free to unmute and go ahead.
Joseph, I'd like to correct the spelling of Thelma's name.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Attendees, 2 G's instead of 2 F's.
Okay, thank you. And I do have a request to divide the audience, this time members voting and non-voting. So I'll do that, make that correction to these before I send them out. Anything else?
Thank you. Any other corrections? Okay, with that, we'll consider those to be approved as amended. And then Jane, your treasury update.
The treasury report is a contribution for this month in the amount of $30, which brings our balance to $1,668.38.
Awesome, thank you. And I believe that Commissioner Savas has joined us now. And so with that, I'd like to invite Commissioner Savas to take the floor. We have 10 minutes in a full agenda for you. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. I had trouble getting in. The link that went out with the flyer would not allow me in on any of my devices, but I was able to get another link. So here I am. So I apologize for delay in joining you all. I did want to give you all an idea as to some of you are aware that the because of construction projects in the recent COVID delays, if you will, or supply shortages have resulted in cost escalation, and we have not taken a complete evaluation of all the projects, but members that are of both the Gladstone project for the library and also the NCPRD Concord library project have been informed about Those projects are on pause until we can determine how we fill those funding gaps. And same goes for a lot of other projects, whether they're in NCPRD or whether they're not part of NCPRD at all or part of the library. So we are experiencing some rather high cost escalations. The good news is that lumber's coming down pretty reasonably. It's still a little bit out of range from where it was. But metal prices are still up, and so does the labor cost apparently. So we're trying to reevaluate those projects. I wanted to let you all know that. I did not, when I made the request for these 10 minutes, was not aware that you had so much on your agenda. So it's good to see that Anita's here and she can add some stuff related to NCPRD later, I am sure. The other thing I wanted to share was we got a new director for NCPRD, and that is Michael Bork, and he has been still in the process of moving here. So he's been around a little bit, and we're hoping for some good things out of him to try to get the district out of the department and allow it to have quite a bit more autonomy than it's had in the past, and have it run like a district, which is really an important issue. The other one, I wanted to make sure, I wasn't sure, taking my commissioner hat off for a moment, just putting on my Oak Lodge or Oak Grove Community Council hat. I did not receive any information or anything about some of the correspondence has gone back and forth from the community council to the county. So I wasn't sure if the membership here was aware that the county sent a letter here a few weeks ago urging Oak Grove Community Council to engage with MAPIT. So wanted to make sure that the members of this community council knew that, as well as the correspondence that Oak Grove Community Council board members sent to the Board of County Commissioners. So I wasn't sure if those were circulated. From what I understand, at the last meeting last month, that may not have been discussed. Was having a lot of technical issues last month, so I'm sorry for not being able to attend all the meetings. I tried with my phone and I tried with my laptop, but I was having some connection issues due to a project here at the house. So that's pretty much what I wanted to give an update on. We are experiencing, again, back to NCPRD, just experienced a lot of technical issues related to funding. And because of those shortages or funding gaps, if you will, it's not clear exactly which projects can move and to when. So there's been some confusion around that and misunderstandings, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to clarify anything further. But that's what I have for today. And I think maybe as the meeting progresses, anything else, I'll be available to either chime in or answer questions.
Yeah, thanks for that. I just wanted to get to your point about the letter that the board sent to MAPIT and the MAPIT representatives. The 3 MAPIT representatives, as we left things from the Oak Grove Community Council, have not yet had a chance to meet to discuss the letter from the board, and so we expect that to happen soon. We've been in touch, very recently, and we'll have that conversation and then be able to come back with a recommendation, to the board and to the rest of the community council about, with respect to that letter. So thanks for bringing that up. I just wanted to give you an update, back on where we were with that.
Yeah, are those correspondence? When you send correspondence out, Joseph, are those posted on the website? Because I looked and maybe I didn't find it, but it seems to me they would be appropriate to post those on the website so the membership can see those.
Yeah, and we can talk about that at our next board meeting and how we handle that and everything, so that we can make sure that we're operating fully transparently.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
So thanks for that suggestion. Any questions for Commissioner Savas before we let him go? Okay, well, thanks for asking for the opportunity to speak and giving us the update about the Concord project, and we'll proceed with the rest of our program. So next up is Next up is going to be On Saunders with the Awakening Coffee House that's on Oak Grove Boulevard in historic Antelope Grove. So, Anne.
Hi, everyone. We're pretty new. I think we've only been there, I think March 8th we opened. We took our lease in February, so right around 6 months. Lots of new things change every day over there right now. Right now we're doing coffee and, small menu. Within 2 weeks, we will be having evening hours and to be rolling into the beer and wine in the evenings, potentially having some bands come in the field. We rented the field behind us, and having food trucks come in the evenings, serving food on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And they'll be rotating food trucks. Hopefully we can get different ones coming through every week so that the community, since we've lost Vinyl Tap, we will have a restaurant. And it will be kid friendly, dog friendly. You can ride your bikes in, and we added new bike racks, bought all of Vinyl Tap's outdoor seating, have more outdoor seating coming so that we can just go outside, because I don't think the pandemic's going to go away anytime soon. That is what else would you like me to cover? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Eleanor, I see a question from Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Well, it's not so much a question, but Anne, I am so thrilled to hear of these updates that you're making, that there's going to be food carts and stuff going on at night. I mean, thank you so much for all of those efforts and helping to make that coffee house a place where people can come to and see one another, and kids and dogs and all that. I mean, thank you. This is wonderful. I've just been aching for such a thing. And
Yeah.
I know it hasn't been easy. So thank you so much.
Definitely, we haven't taken the easy. It seems like every step along the way, there's been some major bumps. Nothing has been in our time frame. Nothing has been in our time frame, but slowly but surely it's all coming together, and it's like, hurry up and wait, and we're getting there. We love it over there. I mean, this is kind of when we sat down with Bobby in August of 2020, it probably right around this time, we said to Bobby that we just really had a vision, not for a community place. That's what we wanted, was a gathering of the community, a family place that, we're even buying cornhole games so that the kids and families or even strangers can play together and get together and do things that just in this time, I think we have to find our circle and hold tight.
So just for everybody else on the call, Bobby Paredes is the woman who owns the building. So just so that
Bobby's
people
my
have a
landlord.
context of what's going on.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, definitely. We thought we would have all of this done 2 or 3 months ago, and it's been one obstacle after another, but what's weird is it still keeps happening. So.
Right. Well, again, thank you for your tenacity and your passion and your community spirit. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We love you.
And your
Just
good
wondered
coffee.
how I'm sorry. How's the crow?
So we have no idea the sex of the crow. So I call it a female, but named it Fred. That way we've covered all the grounds and no one's offended. And it is there every single day. Every day that I'm on the premises, it's there. It will sit on the front windowsill and look in at me. It will crawl up my leg, get on my shoulder. I have no idea what this is about, but that crow has been there and made friends.
Yeah, crows are fantastic. Do we have any more questions for Anne? Suzanne.
So Anne, as I understand now, you're open 7 days a week, right? Is that correct?
The door still says that we're closed on Tuesday, but we are not closed on Tuesday. We have the new sign. It's a matter of juggling enough time to get the new door signage up, but we are open on Tuesday now between 8 and 1. It is limited hours because we're we have an employee do it. So we know that we have to build the customer base on that day, and we're beginning. It'll come. It's just like everything else. It's a slow build. We knew that when we came here. We didn't think we were going to walk in overnight and blow the doors off. And we're, it's better every day.
Well, I'm glad you're getting a day off.
Suzanne, I saw.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Suzanne.
I am. Thank you too for what you're doing. It's just wonderful for our community. I'm wondering, are you still planning to have some kind of special day to celebrate the opening of the wine and beer?
Yeah, we are. I would say it'll probably be in September. And we want to do a pretty large open house, maybe have like 2 food trucks there, have a band come and do a larger event just to make it known that we didn't get to have a grand opening. We couldn't even have people inside when we opened. So COVID has changed everything. And so I think we just want to do like a big grand, like we're here and, doing what we're doing now.
Any other questions for Anne? All right. Well, thank you for joining us and introducing yourself and your business to the community. Oh, Craig, did you want to? Oh, nope, just waving. Okay, very good. So yeah, thanks a lot, Anne. We really appreciate having you, and we hope to see you around and see you at the coffee shop. So thanks so much for joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you for having us. We were like, oh, that's really cool. Let's do it.
Well, great. Yeah, we appreciate hearing that. So thanks again. And so our next presenter is Officer Sarah McClure. I see you are back from your technical difficulty.
Not exactly, no. There's a pre-scheduled restart of my computer in 19 minutes. So I've got a tech person actually in my office right now trying to do a workaround, but in lieu of that, I'm just going to go ahead and just present this lickety split and try and get it done within that time frame, which will save you a little time for your meeting as well, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Feel free.
So I think a few of you have been through neighborhood watch trainings before, so this may be old news for you, but it is definitely still a thriving program and something that we are very happy to offer. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple to understand. The strategies have pretty much not changed in about 50 years because they work. They're simple. They're easy to actually utilize in neighborhoods in a number of different scenarios. As a matter of fact, we may be starting our first business watch, which is actually using the same strategies, but actually for local businesses, maybe starting that very soon. But just the basic concepts are really easy to grasp. And I think that's one reason it's been a fairly successful program. One is just knowing your neighbors, just getting familiar with who lives around you, getting at least to a point where you feel like you recognize people that are in your midst so that you can better recognize when there's somebody there that might not be known to you. So that is very important. Also, just having those people you can reach out to when you're out of town or vice versa. Having those trusting relationships can really insulate the entire community a great deal. Other things are likewise being very familiar with the cars that are in the neighborhood for this very same reason. Most of us are creatures of habit and we park in exactly the same spots every day. So just having familiarity with that can be really helpful as far as enhancing everyone's safety. And that's a pretty easy one to do as you're out walking the dog or going on a bike ride or going for a walk through the neighborhood. Another one is just not walking down the street with your blinders on, being aware of your surroundings and the people that are around, being aware of things that look out of place. And that's a big deal in Neighborhood Watch, being able to recognize something that doesn't look customary or usual, or maybe looks like there might be an element of threat to it, or someone a little bit suspicious. You know, and as far as the suspicious behavior, what we want people in Neighborhood Watch to concentrate on is not the appearance of a person, but their behavior. That's what it really goes to. So somebody who's walking down the street, meandering, looking around, maybe walking partway into a driveway or driving in that same manner. Most people who have a mission, if they're going to visit a friend, if they're going to landscape at someone's house, they go straight from point A to point B. Casing behavior is what we're asking neighbors to be a little bit more aware of, which is somebody who might be looking on porches to see if there's a package that might be opportunistic for them to steal, or, you know, a garage door that's left open where you may be able to walk straight in and steal tools straight out of the garage. And that does happen very, very frequently. If it's somebody who's a burglar, many times if they know what they're doing, they're going to case the neighborhood first, check for the houses that look the most vulnerable, and figure out which ones are going to be the easy hits for them to come back and attack at a later time. Other things that we highly recommend are reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. That is absolutely necessary. A lot of people don't want to get involved with that end of things. They're not comfortable calling police when they see something suspicious, or they won't call until they see something explicitly physically threatening or explicitly criminal. The kinds of things that we encourage people to call in are the more suspicious things that may actually lead up to criminal activity. And sometimes it's hard for us to get to those calls, but the neighbors that call on those things the most are the ones that are going to get the most attention from law enforcement. So that's another good reason to actually be in touch with law enforcement for that reason as well. It's a squeaky wheel. You know, we pay attention to where we're getting the calls. That's where we're going to spend the majority of our time. Also being aware of what's going on. I mean, things go in trends, they go in waves. So right now, in the last couple of years, has definitely been porch pirates have been king. Also, mail theft has been huge, especially with all those you know, checks coming to people in the mail from the government for various different reasons, like unemployment and so forth. If people actually are getting live checks, and some people still do. And we want people to take responsibility of their own safety and their own family as much as possible by making sure that door locks work correctly and are secure. Same thing with window latches. Neighborhood Watch really emphasizes the importance of lighting overnight. It is always best to have a good source of light in the front of your house all night, every night. Criminals like darkness at nighttime. That's where they're attracted. That's where they're going to go. So it behooves you to make sure that you've got good lighting, at least in the front of your property. I'm also a huge fan of motion sensor lights. About 8 years ago, as far as security systems and cameras, I would have told you don't waste your money unless you're in a very high crime rate area. But they are far superior. The kind of quality we're getting in photos is excellent. Much, much easier to identify specific characters that are in your neighborhood. And they're cheaper, a heck of a lot cheaper, a lot more affordable to actually install in your home. So for all those reasons, it's a good idea to work together as a community. And another huge piece of this is communicating with your neighbors. I can't tell you how much that really, really can help. We have a lot of groups with Facebook accounts that are set up in their neighborhoods, or group text lists. That's been really, really helpful, especially on the fly when, for instance, there is some character in the area that they want everybody to be aware of as soon as possible. Text group lists are great. They also come in handy during emergencies. And it's just a matter of putting all these factors together and being thoughtful about the process. And if you wanted to start a group, I'd be very happy to talk with you. It's a good idea to have at least one neighbor for every 5 households that's involved in the program. Otherwise, it becomes too much of a heavy lift for 1 or 2 individuals, and it usually doesn't work out too well. Usually fails if that is the case. I would be happy. I think at the end of this, I will, or maybe tomorrow morning if I don't have access to my laptop, I will send off a flyer to Joseph Edge and Valerie so that they can pass it along to the membership. And that has all the kind of nuts and bolts of the program, explains it in very basic terms. It also has my contact information. When we come out, the training itself usually takes about 60 to 90 minutes altogether. And we provide handbooks, we provide signs for you to post in your neighborhood. And I tell you, during COVID, I have been really busy starting a lot of neighborhood watch groups. It used to be maybe one a month, one new group a month. Right now it's 2 or 3. So a lot of people are seeing value in it. And I would be very happy to offer up that service to any neighborhood who wants to do it. Sometimes the question comes up of how large an area geographically. You don't want it to be there. In my opinion, there's no such thing as one that's too small. We have cul-de-sacs with only 8 houses on it that have their own full-blown neighborhood watch program. That's fine. What you want to try to avoid is making it too big. So for instance, you wouldn't want it to be across the entire OGCC neighborhoods. It would be better to drill it down to a geographical territory that makes the most sense to you. And is probably no more than 50 houses, maybe 100 tops at the very, very limit. I've got time for a couple of questions if anybody has any. But if I disappear, it's not because I don't like you guys. It's I don't have any control.
Eleanor, you're up first.
Well, hi, Sarah. Nice to see you again.
You too.
Yeah, I know one of the things that the Oak Grove Community Council has tried to do for quite a while is the idea of, foster neighborhoods. And it sounds between CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, and the Neighborhood Watch stuff, those are really good ways for neighbors to know neighbors and to work towards that other way of creating a sense of identity,
Right.
And placemaking as well, so that the neighborhood watch stuff can do even more than enhance a sense of safety. It can enhance that sense of, pride and place and
Right.
identity as well. So, yeah.
And those CERT programs and Neighborhood Watch work very, very well as companion pieces. There's
Right.
a lot of commonality.
Right.
So,
And do you have a list of them? Is there an idea of how many of these neighborhood watch things exist in the area?
I wish, but I'm one person for the entire county. So I get people started and I'm there as a resource, but I unfortunately, someday they keep promising me I will have some extra help, and then I'll be able to be a lot more careful about collecting information from various neighborhood watches. And ideally, I would love to stay in touch with them on a routine basis. I just don't have the bandwidth. Right
No,
now.
you don't. I'm wonderful. Thank you for all the things that you do in our community. Thanks. Thanks, Sarah.
Absolutely. Good to see you. Anybody else? Well,
And I see your hand is raised.
So I have a question. So since we're a business and we're on the main street and we do see a lot of things that are concerning, do we have a neighborhood watch that we can do as a business?
It's a concept right now. I've been talking with a couple of local businesses who are very interested in getting something started because they, like many community members, are feeling the impacts of things being in a state of flux more than usual. And things are apparently affecting their businesses in their opinion. And so I think maybe we have the will to do it at this time. So right now we're just conceptualizing it and seeing if it's doable. But if you want to reach out to me specifically, I will make sure you're kept in the loop.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Officer McClurg before we
See
lose her?
Commissioner
Commissioner
Savas?
Savas, I see your hand.
Yeah, I don't know about everyone else, but I cannot find the raise hand feature on I'm not sure if anyone else is having the same problem tonight. But Sarah, can you, getting a lot of complaints about people racing through the neighborhoods, especially at night, whether it's Oatfield or Jennings Lodge or River Road or McLaughlin. It's really loud. It's extremely dangerous for people that have witnessed it.
Mhm.
There's tire marks everywhere. Kind of like the Fremont Bridge situation in Portland. Is there anything that you are all doing to take steps to remedy that?
Well, I wish we had traffic cops out there at night when a lot of this activity is happening. They usually work daytime shifts because that actually is a time when things are even worse as far as people violating traffic laws. We're aware of it. It's been a problem throughout the county and in several different places. If you are seeing a rise in your specific area or on a specific street or at a routine time, like every single Saturday and Friday and Saturday night between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. the next morning, we're really seeing this. Let us know so that we can focus our attention more efficiently and try to catch that activity as it's happening. Really, our best defense against that is trying to act as a deterrent by being present. It's a little bit of a challenge right now just because of our deputy numbers. We're trying to get them bolstered up so that we're in a better position to be more responsive. But again, it's that squeaky wheel system. If you let us know specific streets, specific times of day, days of the week, we'll try to get there.
Thank you.
Well, I know we're going to lose you in just another minute or so. And
Looks that way.
feel free to send Valerie and I an email with information that you'd like us to pass along to our members, and we'll include that in our follow-up email.
I appreciate it. Sorry to have to log out.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate having you.
Absolutely.
Every time we get to see you, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
I do have a question before you leave. Would you give a little bit of an explanation about the exclusion program?
Okay, quickly. I think I have just a couple of minutes. The exclusion program is available to any property owner or manager who wants to allow deputies to act as agents for their own properties, which means that if you have somebody who's an unwanted individual who's causing problems, causing some sort of threat, or committing a crime, we can exclude them for a period of 1 year, which means that we put them on notice that should you return within 12 months and we get here in time, we're going to arrest you for criminal trespass at that point. The first piece is the notice. The second piece is the arrest. And that does act as a pretty good deterrent in many cases.
Yeah, no worries.
For
It's all
keeping
right.
people away.
Love.
Okay. No, that's okay. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to go, everybody. Good luck with the rest of your meeting.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate having you.
You're welcome.
So with that, our next up is Park Avenue Community Project Update. And over 4 years ago, after several years of persistent advocacy by this community, several members of this community council, the Board of County Commissioners approved resources for the Park Avenue Community Project. And to help secure needed funding from Metro, advocates designed a novel community-led long-range planning project. The outcome of the process was intended to be amendments to the zoning and development ordinance that would apply only to the Park Avenue Station study area, that would offer certainty for stakeholders about future development in the area, and for the process to serve as a template for future planning projects along McLaughlin. And it was designed to be consistent with the guiding principles of the McLaughlin area plan, but really to elevate the voices of those who live and work in the study area and own businesses and property. And so it was intended to allow the project's community advisory committee to approve the final plan and refer the proposed amendments to the Board of County Commissioners, which did occur in December of 2020. As Commissioner Savis pointed out, the Community Council Board did send a letter to the MAPID about that. However, the Community Council never was able to receive a final presentation from the Community Advisory Committee, and so we wanted to give them that chance tonight. So joining us tonight are several members of the Community Advisory Committee who are active residents of Oak Grove. They're members of the Oak Grove Community Council, and they served on the Community Advisory Committee and have a vested interest in the Park Avenue Development Project. So with that, I'd like to turn it over, I believe, first to Danielle Roman. And you, I believe, are a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen at your pleasure.
I sure am about to do that. Let me just hold on. Here we go. Sorry, the meeting interface was over the share button. All right. So I'll kick us off. I wanted to talk a little bit to you about some of the history, what went into all this advisory committee, the purpose of our formation, and then I'll turn it over to Anne to talk a little bit about the outcomes. So in 2017, there was a grant application filed for a community-led project that was intended to create development and design standards for the half mile around the Park Avenue Station area. I gave us a little map here. So in case you haven't seen this area, the Park Avenue Station is right in the middle with the star, and it's bounded by that black circle. That is the boundary, project boundary.
No, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that.
You can't see my screen?
We're just seeing, I'm seeing like a map, a picture of the light rail station, then like a little tiny rectangle of a map, not the
Yeah,
whole.
we're only getting a portion of the map image.
It's like
Okay.
it's one little part of the map.
Okay. All right. I apologize. I'm not sure. It
No, no.
looks fine on mine. So,
Right.
all right. But imagine it. Imagine the
Yeah.
Park Avenue Station, and around it is a circle of half mile. It's 335 acres. It's roughly 86% residential. So the acreage is split between single and multifamily acreage. And then just under 14% of it is commercial acres. So if you could see the map, you would see there's a pink line mostly along McLaughlin that comprises most of the commercial area in this project. Hopefully this slide is looking good for you. Let me know if there's any issues. But on the top, we have the McLaughlin area plan vision, and then some values underneath. So this really dates back to about 2011 when the McLaughlin area plan laid out some vision and values for the area. And the reason why I included it here, since we're not talking all the way about 2011, but it's relevant because the Park Avenue project was required to align to this vision. It was in the agreements, and this vision was also approved by our Board of County Commissioners in 2016. And not only that, it's just I love it. I think it's a really great vision. It talks about walkability, tree-lined streets, communities that are thriving with neighborhoods, shops, restaurants, and services, and engaged citizens, an empowered local economy, and some local self-determination to determine what we would like for the area where we live and work. So if you're wondering, well, what does that really mean? What is all of this work? Here were the things that were laid out in the work to be done in this project. So we had to, I'll leave out the obvious, right? We all know project management and implementation. We have these things in projects, right? But the real meat of the work that was done was to make sure that we were engaging with the community in an equitable fashion. We're making sure we hear from voices, renters, owners, business owners, business managers of all walks of life. And in concert with that, I believe, right, developing an anti-displacement strategy, especially where rents are concerned, making sure we have affordable housing opportunities for the people that live here. And then the items in orange were really the meat of a lot of these plans. So we were asked to create some guiding principles, and we had to make sure they aligned with that McLaughlin area plan. And then we were tasked with building this framework plan and accompanying map, and other folks will talk a little bit about that. You can see it in later slides. And then also it was to draft and develop these standards and put them forth to the Planning Commission. So it's a lot of work. These were the members on our committee. I think this is 18 people. They're residential representatives, business representatives, property owner representatives, and then some special interest groups. We were lucky. We had some special interest representatives that are also residents and some that weren't, but they spend an awful lot of time here. So I think it was a pretty wide-reaching committee. You may ask, let me go back a little, you're probably asking, well, how did these folks do all of this work? That's a lot of work. And really, we did it with a ton of support and project oversight from the county and from our consultants. So there was a grant management team in place. They gave us oversight, and they consisted of consultants, county and metro staff, as well as our McLaughlin area plan implementation team chair. We had a consultant team to help us give the technical design and some expertise so that we would make sure that, they were really the ones that would translate our vision into that framework and that map. And then finally, we were able to present the final recommendation. We had the consultant help us with that. And then staff at the county really helped us refine the presentation. And that was to be brought forth to the Planning Commission. So my time is pretty much up, but I did want to give you, I want to make sure you have that history before Anne talks about the outcomes. And then I really wanted to tell you a little bit about why I care about this project. You can see I represented youth interests, so that's the youth interest. I'm not the youth. My kids are. I moved here in 2017. I live and work out of my home. I have for years. So I'm here all the time. We moved here specifically because of that light rail and trolley trail, because of the running hobby, because I want my kids to bike. I want them to be able to go into the city when they are working, going to college, whatever. And then my vision for this community, and the reason why I was so excited to inform on this project, be a part of the committee, was so that I could have the ability to walk and bike to services for myself and for my family as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Anne. She's going to talk a little bit about herself and about the project's outcomes for the Park Avenue project. Anne?
Muted.
All right.
There you go.
There we go. That's better, right?
Yes.
Thanks. So I'm a resident and a homeowner in the study area. We purchased a home in 2017, a historic home. It's the Perdot home, built in 1888 on 13013 Oak Grove. It's, I understand, the oldest continued residence between Milwaukee and Oak and Oregon City. So it's an amazing, amazing property. We will see it here. We intentionally built a multi-generational family home, my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter. We wanted to live in history and live in a beautiful, vibrant, safe environment for a little girl and her puppy to grow up in and be here. We are in the absolute heart of the study area. Our home is in the multifamily area, and abuts is exactly on one of our property edges is on the industrial. I call it industrial because that's what I have in my backyard is industry. So we're right here in the heart of this project. And while we were looking for our home, what we wanted was close proximity to the MAX station. It was our top priority. And what we're hoping is to have a safe and pleasant place to walk and bike, to shops, cafes. It's so amazing and wonderful to hear Eleanor's joy as we were talking about the Awakening Coffee. And I love that. I've been to that shop and I will continue to be there, but it's actually quite a ways from my house. I would love to have that same kind of environment within walking distance of me. So that's why I'm doing this. And my daughter really wanted to be on the committee. We both applied and she was a little bit upset that I got chosen and not her. But she and I and my son-in-law are very, very involved in the community, and we intend to live here for many years. So when you think about the Park Avenue community, what I want you to think about is what it looks like now, because the map vision that Danielle just gave us is not what's here. You know that. This part of this end of McLaughlin is underused, and some areas one would be even classified as blighted. It's not a pleasant, easy, or safe place to be. From my house, I only have a block and a half to walk down to the MAX station, but it is not either safe or pleasant for me to walk pushing my granddaughter in the stroller. And that's not what we wanted. That's not what anyone has wanted to have here. So when we began on this project, the first thing we did was to do a walk around. The whole committee and the consultants and the county people, we all took an afternoon and walked the area so that we could really see what was there. And when we could see what was there, we were empowered and impassioned to work. And people have put in so many hours on all of this work. The biggest thing was the gathering the information and opinions of the residents and the business people in the area. This first part of putting together our guiding principles took months. We worked for months on this because we wanted it to be a full community project. We had an in-person community workshop, which was very well attended and very, it was pre-COVID. So people got to be there and interact with one another. We've had, I personally have canvassed my entire area from Park down to Cinderella and into the Cinderella past Oatfield, but from Oatfield to McLaughlin, I have spoken to every single person who owns. There are a lot of property owners in this area. A lot of us have our whole lives, for me, it's my entire financial reality is here in this property, as well as my hopes and dreams of the future for myself and my family. So, we did these conversations, we learned about what was there, we talked to people, we had community surveys online that were very successful. And then we would bring that information back and have long conversations in our meetings as we came up with these guiding principles. And you can look at them, we won't read them through, but the first one, just really looking at employment opportunities and wanting to promote innovative business ventures, and with total respect to the existing businesses that are adjacent there on McLaughlin and adjacent to the trolley trail and the transit. And then 2, to increase diversity and accessibility of housing. Housing is a huge, huge need. We know that, and the housing builds around the transit stations. So that was a very big part, to be able to, again, to say we want to increase diversity and accessibility, but maintaining sensitivity to existing residents. It's in that balance of allowing for new things to happen and maintaining sensitivity to what was there is very much a part of every conversation. Again, 3, to provide safe locations and crossings. It is dangerous to cross McLaughlin, and the Park Avenue McLaughlin intersection is frightening. It's frightening to cross that, and I cross it often, and it is, we need to work on it. 4, we wanted to create a heart and hub of neighborhood activities, to feel like a community, and then to treat natural systems as a benefit and integral part of our community by identifying and preserving them, and to promote resilient, sustainable systems and infrastructure. These are really high ideals and it took us months and months to come down to the wording and the heartfelt intentionality in them. But now these are guiding principles. They are a plumb line, which we measure against, measure any potential ideas in the framework, in the design. We always go back to these guiding principles. Is it what we're hoping for? Is it what we're talking about? And this led us, after this long, hard work, into the framework, which you'll see on the next slide here. When we had our framework plan, you can see it really narrows down to a very small part of the entire project area, just a couple blocks on either side of McLaughlin there. The single family residential zone is the larger part, the commercial zone in red, and the multifamily in orange. And I have to tell you, I'm right on the cusp of the multifamily and the red, right in the middle, right. I'm pointing to it, but you can't see it. Right off between Evergreen and Silver Springs. But what we wanted was to look at Green Street, landscaping buffers, safe crossing areas, and activity hubs. There's more, but those I'll just bring up. And you can see on this map 2 activity hubs So the reality of the places that we're talking about really focusing on are pretty small areas. Not only is the Park Avenue design area small in itself in relationship to all of McLaughlin, but these proposed activity hubs are just pieces inside of that. And so these are big ideas. These are visions. And what we take is from there into some of the concepts and vision, and Nate Ember will take us into that, some of those specifics. So Nate, it's your time.
Sorry, thanks, Anne, and thanks for that intro. I've Nate Ember. I've lived here. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen while I'm talking. I'm a bad multitasker. I'm Nate Ember. I've lived here since 2006. My family and I moved here and started building a house way back then, and got involved because the light rail was coming, and basically the planning for that was impacting where I lived. I'm in the study area, and as a young designer, kind of becoming an architect, I was quite the idealist, even more than I am now. And some of you may remember some of the presentations we did of just some young designers and I and other community members here were just trying to figure out how would MAP implement here. And so we kind of just started working way back then, and that led really towards us pursuing this grant and this project that Danielle and Anne have kind of told you about. So really the way to kind of get the change that we want to see on McLaughlin, that this community has talked about for a long time, is to figure out how to meet the economic demand and make redevelopment happen. And that really comes from the demand for more housing and amenity-rich neighborhoods. And despite all the shifts that have happened during the pandemic, that demand is still really high. Places that are walkable, that have lots of housing choice, that are high quality, and really just safe places to be. And I think we kind of understand that. So those are the kind of neighborhoods that are actually financially sustainable and support all the amenities and shops and local business that we all would like to have and be able to walk to. And what we have right now, when you look at the numbers, is really we don't have nearly enough kind of housing density to work with such a well transit served place that we have with the light rail and bus service that we have. So there's a lot of opportunity there to bring that housing as part of redevelopment, which will also feed into businesses and economic activity. And right now we have very poor jobs per acre, and a lot of resources say that you should target 45 to 50 jobs per acre around a light rail station. We really are, you can see here from this map, this is EPA data that's available online, and we're way below those targets. So there's just lots of opportunity. And in the metro area, you can see that in Portland, there are many, many jobs within easy reach of the light rail. These numbers are huge. So within 45 minutes, there's tons of employment opportunity, and more people really deserve a chance to access that and utilize that sustainable transit. So the other untapped potential really is tax value, property tax income. And you can see here the difference between, like a box style retail versus a more dense mixed use development, and what that really means for, the efficiency of land used, how taxes per acre are possible, how many people can live in that space, and how many jobs can be sustained in that same amount of space. So really these are all the things that this plan wanted to try to tap into, because cars they take up a lot of space, they don't really generate revenue, and prioritizing space for people and economic activity just makes a lot more sense. So the other thing that spurs redevelopment is walkability. Like I said, a lot of research and talking to developers as part of this project, they all say that they look for places to redevelop where there's a walk score of 90. And you can see that right now, you can go look this up online. We're at a 46 right now, and that's because there just aren't nearly enough things to walk to. And we've got, you know, high volume, high speed, not very safe sidewalks along McLaughlin. You can kind of see right now the top here is the pattern of development that we have on McLaughlin. Huge gaps between places with lots of driveways to cross. They're just not safe walkable places that invite you. You know, it's not the same as walking by rows of shops with few interruptions. So these same ideas are all really supported by this evidence, as well as these are some anecdotes from the consultants about how, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to dwell on this probably long enough for everybody to read, but essentially, you know, in order to signal redevelopment, part of what we have to do is change the zoning and design standards, which is what this project proposes to do, and signal that what we want is this walkable environment, this place that has kind of different relationships to the streets, buildings that are closer to sidewalks, and all of these kinds of things that lead to walkability and vibrance. So some of the things that we've run into are that the project has not yet been adopted or approved at the commission level. And one of the main sticking points is about some of the uses that are currently allowed under the C3 zoning along McLaughlin that, in order to spur redevelopment, really just don't make sense. They kind of work against walkability. They don't attract redevelopment because it, you know, the current pattern is sort of what the zoning allows for, which is, you know, auto dealerships, auto related businesses and services, as well as storage facilities. So for a lot of reasons, these things have worked on McLaughlin in the past because that was the pattern that was set up, and some of them are great local businesses that we have, and the plan doesn't say those businesses can't keep working. It just says it wouldn't allow for new, you know, a new like car dealership, for example, or a new storage facility, because they don't offer a lot of employment density. They don't serve local needs. You know, they don't meet a lot of the goals that were outlined by the community as what we want to achieve with this project. And success really looks like 18-hour neighborhoods, lots of places to go, places where you can feel safe. If you're 8 years old or 80 years old, you can get where you need to go. We can actually capitalize on the investment in public transit, and the economy becomes more sustainable. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig to kind of talk about what is successful about the plan and how that worked.
Okay, thanks, Nate.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to talk about the process that we used in arriving at our vision of a vibrant community and kind of what unfolded during that process. Can you go to the next slide, Danielle, please? So I'm going to just start with a little bit of my story and vision for the Park Avenue project. So as Danielle mentioned, we had a diverse group of people in our committee, 18 of us. And so I represented what we refer to as the senior interests. So representing senior living, senior services in the half-mile radius. Although Roseville isn't technically in the half-mile radius, I'm going to say that we certainly represent their interests as well, because they're a large community in the area. My background is that I've been the CEO at Willamette View for about 12 years now, and I was on the board of directors prior to that. Many of you know we're a nonprofit, non-denominational senior living community. We've been in the area for 66 years and very much see ourselves as an integral part of the Oak Grove community and in the greater Clackamas community as well. As that, we have a vested interest in seeing the success of the Park Avenue planning project. We have about 450 residents, 300 employees. So when we talk about housing, certainly workforce housing, diverse housing is important. Roseville has about 500 between residents and employees. And interestingly enough, Willamette View has probably about 8% of the real estate that's inside of this half-mile unincorporated area, just based on the properties that we own. So as I said, I think we have a real vested interest in it. One of the things that I felt I could bring into the discussion is that we see Willamette View very much as a small community inside of the larger community of Oak Grove and the county itself. Inasmuch, we have a tagline that says building community together. So we're not about buildings, we're about community and culture that of the people that live and work in the area. So I'm going to speak to the process of the vibrant community really from that standpoint, that this isn't about buildings. This is about community and culture and cultivating that as part of this plan. Next slide. So we did have a structure and a process. We started with the stated purpose that was set forth by the county for our committee, which was the phase 2 implementation of public engagement to support a vision. As Danielle mentioned, there's 18 of us that live, work, or own property in the area. We actually were the genesis of the process of community engagement because we all represented something unique and different to the work. So we saw ourselves as invested, interested parties in the process. As Ann mentioned, it was about creating a vision of what might be possible for the next 20 years, building on the guiding principles of the MAP community vision. We did have a roadmap. Let's see, what's the next slide? Sure, I'll do that one. The very first meeting we had, we were asked by the consultants to think about where we would like to walk in the project area. So this kind of ties back to comments that Danielle made, Ann made, Nate made about this area. So it was interesting to get people to express their desires of what they would like to walk to. So we heard grocery store quite a bit. We heard professional services. We heard coffee shop. Ann just mentioned coffee shop, restaurant, the trolley trail, and so forth. So these ideas that were brought forth are what we started to work with as we looked at the phase 1 guiding principles and then the 2020 guiding principles. Next slide. So sometimes, you can get a little off track in your process, but we had this work plan that was provided to us again by the county when we started the process. So, you can think about, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Well, this was our roadmap. So our community advisory committee is the blue box right in the middle. You can see down at the bottom, we had consultants, the county, and supporting members. They all supported this process. We actually had a very rich, diverse group of consultants that helped us. We had what I'd say is very bright and committed county staff that were part of the process. As Nate was talking in his outline, our work would be to bring this back to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. And you can see off to the right, the community engagement that we were tasked with. So all the blue arrows tied to the Community Advisory Committee. So open house, focus groups, door knocking, questionnaires, mailings, and so forth was the work that we were tasked with. Next slide. We started with the guiding principles of 2019. So that was the phase 1 work that was mentioned. A couple of changes here that set us on course were the first one, which is the focus for phase 2 was just on the unincorporated half-mile radius. If you remember, the half-mile actually dips down into Milwaukee, but we were focusing just on the unincorporated area. You can see in contrast, in comparison, 2019, 2020, the work that we did The outcome of that effort and the engagement actually brought us very close in the guiding principles in 2020 that were set forth in 2019. So it was a way for us to actually gauge the continuation of work that was being done by different groups of people, all kind of saying the same thing. This is what we're looking for in this area as a vision for redevelopment. Very much about increasing employment, diversity and accessibility of housing. Ann mentioned the crossings on McLaughlin, community gathering spaces. So the theme here, as I started saying, it's really about community and culture, and it's not about buildings. It's about how the area develops and brings people into it to create that sense of community. Next slide, please. So Ann showed this. I'm just repeating it real quick. This is what a vibrant community looks like in the vision that we were creating. It's about housing, it's about jobs, it's about gathering places and a sense of community. Number 5 is our green space. We talked a lot about tree canopy. We talked a lot about native natural elements being brought into it. Housing opportunities of choice and variety, not just one particular product. Crossings across the street, bikeability, walkability. And I can say that personally with the people I represent that live here in Rosevilla. We have a lot of seniors that are out walking in these neighborhoods, and they want to be able to walk to places where there's small shops, commerce, gathering places, things of interest, access to light rail. So this is how the guiding principles come back to put pictures, words, context to the work that we were doing around creating a sense of community. So kind of how did we get there by the numbers in the community engagement work? So albeit COVID hit us, that was mentioned, but we continued to trudge on and persevere. We had nearly 3,000 notices, postcards we sent out. You can see the numbers here. Some strong respondents to online surveys, workshop attendance, our Park Avenue Committee Advisory Committee, the 16 meetings we had. I don't know that we ever tracked our time per se, but I'm going to guess that we spent individually between 80 and 100 hours each of time dedicated to these meetings, the workshops, the walkabouts, and so forth. So there was, you know, for the best of our abilities, an extensive amount of engagement in people in the area giving feedback to the work that we were doing. And it was part of the confirming process. Are we on the right track? Are we asking the right questions? Are we getting the right feedback from people what they want to see in the area? And we believe we were, and we did. Next slide. So this, the reason why I think this is one is important for people to kind of land on for a second. This is an important outcome of the engagement process that we got a lot of feedback on about housing, community, work environment, makerspace, places that people could live and work. And as Nate said, we did have some proposed standards that we believe supported the vision. So there were some things that we put out there that we heard from the engagement process that in order to get the kind of community people were looking for, here are the things that had to be considered and dealt with. And so we worked through that as well. And that was part of the presentation in the report that we provided back to the Board of County Commissioners. I don't think I have any more slides after this one, but I'll just wrap up because I'm going to hand this off to Valerie and say that, you know, given COVID, it was a challenging process, but we were all dedicated to do the work that we were asked to do. I believe we delivered what we were charged with, and that we actually did, working through the process of all the information, the consultants support, the staff from the county, created a very engaging, inspiring vision of what could be possible over the next 20 years of creating community and culture and not just buildings. So I'm going to turn it to Valerie and talk about what's next.
Okay, thank you. So as you've just heard, the Park Avenue Community Advisory Committee follow the process that was set out for it by the Board of County Commissioners. It was an amazing opportunity. I chaired the group, and you just saw tonight some of the outstanding members that we have that participated in the group, brought a lot of energy and insight into everything that we did. The final recommendations were presented to MAPIT in October of 2020, to the BCC in December of 2020. The Board of County Commissioners unanimously accepted the work, but has yet to refer the project onto the County Planning Commission, which has its own outreach process as well. In June, I was very surprised, as were my colleagues on the Park Avenue Community Advisory Committee, to hear that the Board of County Commissioners expected MAPIT to be an arbitrator for the work of the advisory committee. MAPIT was not part of the process as outlined for the committee from the beginning. The vision and planning work, we were told, was to be a reflection of the community that lives, works, and owns property in the half mile around the light rail station. MAPIT, as it has been constituted, is not a reflection of the Park Avenue study area. I can say with a degree of certainty that of the 9 members that were on MAPIT when Oak Grove went on hiatus, I was the only person that lived in the Park Avenue study area. Last December, the Oak Grove Community Council Board sent a letter of support for the project, but the full body of the Oak Grove Community Council did not have that opportunity. Tonight, the Oak Grove Community Council members of the Park Avenue study area are asking this council to affirm the work of the committee and to ask the Board of County Commissioners to have it sent on to the County Planning Commission, which, as we have said, will do its own outreach work as well. And that would be the next step in this long process, would be to move it to the Planning Commission. And thank you again for listening to us, and to my colleagues for their work on the presentation tonight. Eleanor.
Well, I just want to commend all of you for that wonderful presentation, very thorough. It felt very complete. And Valerie, I hear your request, for the Oak Grove Community Council to affirm the work. And I would like to put forward a motion so that it could be discussed. I'd like to put forward a motion affirming the work of it's the PACAC. Is that what it's called? Affirming the work and urging the Board of County Commissioners to forward the plan, the project, as you guys presented it, onto the Planning Commission, so that the continuing process can be continued and the work of all of you can be honored and respected and followed. And we need a second.
Okay,
I'd like to
here we have a motion on the floor.
Would second Eleanor's motion. Jane Civiletti.
Seconded by Jane. Is there any discussion before we call for the question?
Well, I have a question. I mean, why has the BCC not done so? Seeing as what you guys did was follow all of the protocols that were handed to you in good faith and making all this stuff happen, why is it being stalled? Why isn't it being forwarded?
Commissioner Savas, as one of those commissioners, I believe you're in a good spot to respond to that.
I appreciate the discussion. Thank you, Eleanor, for the question. I think perhaps if people go and listen to the audio of the BCC meetings, I think you'll have an answer to your question, as well as maybe if all the members had some copies of the correspondence, they would understand maybe a little bit better as to what the BCC heard before that June 22nd meeting, and that was a differing opinions and not a clear message. And so that's why it was recommended that perhaps Mappet, who has a business representation, could help discuss and work those things out. I don't believe, if I'm incorrect, I'll stand corrected. But I don't believe the word arbitrator or arbitrating it was an assignment to Mappet whatsoever.
I would just say that that's.
Eleanor, I saw your hand go up first.
No, Valerie, did you have a comment or?
No, I was just gonna respond that arbitrator, because I used that word, that was what we have heard. And we were asked to go back to Mappet to have them figure this out, but Mappet was never a decision-making body, and as it is currently constituted, does not reflect the Park Avenue study area.
Eleanor, you're up next.
Yeah, I still don't understand what the issue is, that the Board of County Commissioners isn't forwarding it. What I heard you say, Commissioner, is that there were some differences of opinion. This is an area of what, 28,000 people? Of course, there's going to be differences of opinion. So I don't understand what it is that's blocking the thousands of hours of work and the good work of all these people who did all this outreach to make all this stuff happen, who have followed what they were instructed to do and have done so in good faith. I still, it's not clear why the BCC is not moving this forward.
Well, Eleanor, I won't repeat myself, but I would encourage everyone to go back and listen to that discussion. What the BCC heard up to the June 22nd meeting was a lot of differing opinions, especially from property owners who lived, I see someone nodding their head, no, who lived or owned property on the boulevard, who were not in agreement. Members of the committee, it was not a unanimous decision by the PACAC. And there was even opposing opinion viewpoints on that. So, because of that lack of consistency and so many people reaching out to the Board of County Commissioners, we thought we don't want to stall this. You know, there was words that somehow the project's dead. No, the project's not dead. The letter the Board of County Commissioners sent on July 27th, just 3 weeks ago, clearly stated, please go back, get consensus and bring it back. You know, the county commission, the votes are there to move this forward, but we want consistency. We don't want the planning commission to be the arbitrator. We want to work out the issues. We don't want lawsuits. Lawsuits will tie this up. So the better and sooner we clear up some of these issues, the better off we're all going to be.
Okay. I think consensus is a really unreasonable standard, and I'll let that rest. Danielle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, if I may, I do want to say, I remember a couple of meetings ago, I did commit that I would watch that meeting, and I did with a group of other folks as well. And I did attend that feedback session from businesses that were actually both within and outside of the project area. And, you know, a couple of comments on that. I do think that feedback that was provided by those businesses, I don't know that really encompassed all of the businesses in the area. I think it was a vocal minority. Again, there were people who didn't actually even own property in that area who were given many minutes to speak. I think it was 7 or 8 minutes to speak on that. And then I did see that reflected in the meeting and in your comments as well, as that was this complete blocker to the process. You know, when I was reviewing all of the materials, getting this presentation ready, really learning about all of the process that went in place, the idea that we would have a consensus vote among our committee and work with all of these advisors, all of these folks with the county. And I have to say, I'm very disappointed to be told that there's many opinions that are opposing this, because frankly, I'm really not seeing them. And I don't know that they were reflected in any of the surveys that we did. I don't see them there either. I did my homework. And I have to disagree.
Anne, you're up next.
I just wanted to reiterate what Danielle just said too, that throughout the process in the community interactions, in the surveys that we did, in the conversations, in the meetings, there was a clear, strong consensus, I would say, on wanting to improve this area, wanting to make it better, wanting to go beyond some of the blight and some of the underdevelopment and some of the unsafe spaces there. And there was a person on the committee that was very, very vocal, and that person took a lot of time. And as she spoke, then people just moved on. And I hate to be the person to just say that that person was heard very much in the committee, but when every time we did a vote, the vote was bringing forth the proposals that we have brought forth. And I think it's very, very unfair to go outside of that and pretend that we weren't fully in concert with one another and with the community all along, because one person was not happy. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I'm blunt. I'm an old lady. I get to be blunt.
If I may, Danielle, I appreciate your research on that. Did you happen to read the written comments on this from the surveys?
Yeah,
okay.
I did.
And you didn't see anything that was in opposition or had concerns?
So it's been a little bit of time. I mean, of course, there is some mixed opinions there. There's not a consensus, but I do remember that the surveys pretty heavily requested a specific type of housing. There was a lot of consensus on that. There was also a lot of consensus. There were comments saying, we do not want chain restaurants. We do not want storage facilities. These didn't, so to say, okay, well, clearly not everyone agreed. There were a few comments about, hey, I know they're just going to make me move out anyway, right, of where I live. There were those comments as well, but to represent them as not balanced with other comments would be incorrect.
Yeah, and if I earlier used the word consensus, meaning that it had to be unanimous, I commonly do that, so I apologize. I don't mean that consensus needs to be unanimous. I know that is the actual definition if you look it up. But there were differing opinions. We were hoping to get that worked out. The letter that the Board of County Commissioners sent on July 27th, just a few weeks ago, very similar to the conversation on June 22nd, when the board made their decision to wait to send this to map it. It was to get some better understanding and better acceptance or compromise or something with the plan. So that's where it's at. It's not stuck. It's in the court of MAPIT. If MAPIT chooses to do that, if you all don't think that MAPIT is the right forum for that, for the property owners, for the businesses, for the residents, for everyone, then let's talk about a different setting in which all this material and everyone can actually work out the details. Because we don't want the Planning Commission to be stuck with arbitrating all these differing opinions. I and Ed Gronke, many of us, Eleanor, way back, we all spent hundreds of hours in Map 1, Map 2, Map It. We've got, I've got thousands of hours collectively between all of those processes. We do want to see change. I agree with a lot of what you all said. Okay. So we need to get there. So that's why I'm not ready to let this die. I want this to move forward, but I want this to move forward with as much agreement as possible. And that's why we tasked MAPIT with coming back together to work out these details. I think the votes are there to move move whatever comes out of that forward.
Okay, and I
I
did.
see
post the
Eleanor's hand
survey.
raised and Nate member's hand raised.
And-
Sorry, and then we're overdue to close the meeting, and so I need to call for the question very soon. So Eleanor first, and then Nate.
Well, Craig had his hand up before, so I just want to be fair. It was Craig and then Nate, I think, and then myself.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, thank you, Eleanor. Joseph, I was just going to say, as a point of clarification on behalf of the committee, if you, in reading the charter that we received when we got started, the word consensus is an active word. You know, the desire is to get people to agree, but there actually is a 2/3 vote requirement on anything that we landed on as part of the guiding principles or the vision or the plan going forward. So the fact that the plan was presented as it was had received a 2/3 support from the committee during its work sessions. So we understood the whole issue about consensus, and it was very clear in the charter that it's difficult to arrive at consensus, but they want a 2/3 vote on any major decision that was made. So kind of back to your point, Eleanor, just to clarify that.
Thanks for that, Craig. I didn't mean to skip over you there.
No, that's okay.
Nate, you had your hand up?
Eleanor.
Yes. Sorry.
Go ahead,
So
Nate.
just to clarify, I think, you know, the reason I don't think MAPIT is an appropriate forum is that this process was well funded with lots of engagement, lots of mailers went out to people of all varieties. There were many opportunities to engage. MAPIT doesn't have that kind of capability to bring people together in kind of an equitable fashion. There were seats at the table that were often empty that were for business owners and you know, folks that came and spoke to the commission late in the game that had many opportunities to show up and participate, and that didn't happen, and the community should not be held up for that. You know, that was the right time to do it, because there was lots of outreach to try to make that happen in a fair and, you know, responsible and open way. And so we need to trust that process and who showed up to participate in that process. And I think, you know, that should stand on its own. I don't think it needs to be revisited or re-adjudicated in some way.
Danielle, you had a comment?
No, I just pulled up the survey that Paul was referencing, and I dropped the link in here. I mean, yeah, there's one or two on every comment. It's clear one or two folks had a lot to say about decisions being made for them. But I think the consensus overwhelming was actually pretty much supporting in what we said. So I encourage you all to look on this for yourself. And Mitra, if no one knows the answer to your question, I'm pulling up the grant right now for you.
So I know that we're over time and we've got to, you know, move forward, and we have a motion on the floor to vote on. And again, the motion has nothing to do with MAPIT. Again, I agree that MAPIT is not the forum for this. All of this takes place in the Oak Grove Community Council area, and it follows everything in the McLaughlin area plan. So it's not in any way contradictory to anything. And Anne, I appreciate your bluntness, and I'm getting to be an old lady, so I'll be blunt too. It's just really sad when it seems like there's a few special interests that really try to hijack the community good and all the work that a lot of community members put through. Everything has been very consistent in this community in terms of the McLaughlin area plan from almost 20 years ago, that this area clearly wants the same thing. There is an enormous amount of consensus. So I know it's about 8:33. There's a motion on the table. I think that we should call for the vote.
Yeah, I need to call for the question. We've had a lot of discussion on this. You know, there's certainly, you know, more material available, you know, for everybody to engage with on this project if you're interested in submitting additional commentary. But at this point, I'm going to ask that we all use the chat feature to vote yes or no on the question.
Okay.
Should we send it to
that last month when I was
Danielle?
absent that we did a vote that.
Are we sending it to
I'm sorry?
Danielle?
You can go ahead and send it to everyone. That way it'll have a better record. unless you're not comfortable, feel
Yeah,
free
if you
to
send it
just
to everyone, then we'll have a written record of it.
and let me know if you need to have the motion read. Or anyway, I did place it in the chat.
Just for prudence, could you please read it?
Oh, sure. I have motion by Eleanor Hunter is to affirm the work of the Park Avenue Community Advisory Committee, PACAC, and forward it on to the Board of County Commissioners so that the Park Avenue project process can continue.
Okay, and so vote yes if you are in favor of that, and no if you are not in favor of that. We're going to move ahead and we'll tally those votes and give an update before we close out. But we've got a few more things to cover tonight, and so I want to get us moving ahead. So thank you so much, everybody from the CAC. Valerie, did you have another comment before we move
Yes,
on?
I just wanted to mention that voting members can vote. So that's part of it. If you're not a voting member.
Right, yeah, voting members only, please.
Yeah. And if you're not sure, just send me a note. I can check.
Okay, and like I said, we'll get that tallied up and get that back to everybody before we close out, hopefully. I'm going to move us into our Blue Art presentation, which will be a little brief. We do have a new application for a 12-lot subdivision on Oatfield that showed up yesterday, and so we haven't done the analysis on this yet, but I wanted to show everybody that we do have, site between Nafe and Rothy roads on just the west side of Oatfield that will be proposed for a 12-lot subdivision. This is what it looks like now. The new lots, we'll use the flexible lot size standards. It's the R8.5 zone, and so it's 8,500 square foot average lots with the stormwater detention tracts. And there's a side street back here called Whipple Avenue that will be, they'll be facing that street. So here's what the subdivision is going to look like with the stormwater tract here at the front and the lots going around in kind of an L shape, a little bit closer view. And here's the tree removal plan. I don't believe that there's a single tree that's going to be saved. Not one. So just zoom in on that a little bit more. This is, I usually don't opine on these, but this is kind of depressing, considering that this is what we're starting with. It's really unfortunate that there's not a better way to preserve some of this while getting some of this needed housing. But this will actually have a public hearing. And all the hearings are with the hearings officer are occurring over Zoom at this point for the future. So we're all encouraged to attend. This will be on September 29th. We'll meet before this, so we'll have an opportunity for further analysis and presentation. Maybe be able to take a motion to submit some comments for consideration by the hearings officer. That's all I've got on that.
Joseph,
we got a few community updates.
Joseph,
sorry,
a quick question.
Yep.
Just a quick question on that Luart thing. It looks like the land is really steep. But
there's a steep slope along the where it abuts Oatfield. It's incredibly steep right here. So it will not have any access to Oatfield. There will be no connections to Oatfield or anything. It's too steep to do anything.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
And we'll send out in our follow-up email, we'll send out information about that hearing as well as giving an update next month. So a few committee updates from CERT. Rich, do you have a quick update?
Yes, I do. We have met a few times. We've updated our radio communications. We've updated our certifications for first aid and all that goes with it. There is a new plan that was just announced to all of the CERT members to purchase and install a repeater radio that will enable communications across the entire CERT area. It is not grant funded, and we are looking for donations. So if you write to us somehow through the web page or something akin to it, we can give you information on how you can make a donation. And we were hoping to get to new meetings in person, which we did for the radio and the first aid, but that seems off the board with the latest COVID regulations. So hopefully things will move ahead. That's it for me.
All right, thanks, Rich. Mark, do you have another update about the Concord property, other than what Commissioner Savage shared earlier?
Thanks, Joseph. No, I think Commissioner Savas covered what I was going to mention, so nothing to add.
Jane, I see your hand is raised. Did you want to get in there really quick with something? You're muted.
As opposed to quick, I was going to make a motion that the community council make a donation to the CERT team for the equipment that they intend to purchase to put up at Rose Villa for our communications. Perhaps that will need to wait until the next meeting when we have more time.
How much is it?
Are you making a motion?
Well, that would require an entire other vote here, and Danielle's still processing the last one. So perhaps I will make this motion at our follow-up meeting. Thank you.
How about a suggestion that Rich, you bring that information to the group next time and we could vote on it.
Yeah, I can do that, or Jane. I'll also try to make sure something's on the webpage about it.
Cool. And then thank you for that. Anita, did you have an update about from the NCPRD DAC?
I would just say that we're still setting the agenda for the next DAC meeting, which is open to the public, and it's by Zoom, and I will send Joseph the link so that you can attend it. And one thing I do know that will be on the agenda is the Concord Task Force will be giving a presentation.
Excellent, thank you. And then for the Oak Lodge Governance Project, Mitra has
Yeah, I have a couple of.
There you are.
Yeah, I have a couple of quick announcements. First, I do want to correct the record just a wee bit about during my presentation from last month. I had mentioned that I had inferred that the Oak Grove Community Council remained intact in the study boundary. And in fact, the eastern border pushes up against the Milwaukee-Ugma. But there's a teeny tiny part of the OGCC that exists within the Milwaukee-Ugma, and Milwaukee did not grant us permission to include that particular study, that little piece of the OGCC within our study boundary to be considered in the broader report. So almost all of OGCC and the entirety of JLCPO is within that particular boundary. Secondly, I want to throw out a pitch, and this is going to sound a little funny, but for folks who are interested in local governance to consider applying for the City of Milwaukee Leadership Academy. And the reason that I would suggest this is as a member of the OLGP, part of our mission is to, connect folks with opportunities to learn about our local governance. And as you know, this big report that's coming at the beginning of October, one of the models that we're presenting is with potential annexation into Milwaukee. And what the fiscal analysis does is it talks about some of the financial realities around that. But what it doesn't do is talk about the vision, values, and inner workings of the City of Milwaukee. And applying to this Leadership Academy, which runs almost the course of a year. It does monthly classes. It really gets into the inner workings of the city from the city itself. I did it myself in 2019. I found it incredibly valuable. And in fact, of those 20 folks participating, nearly half were from the unincorporated area. So a number of folks in Oak Grove also found this really valuable. I'm going to go ahead and post the website here. And this isn't a pitch for a particular option in any way, shape, or form. It's just simply another opportunity to learn how folks nearby us are governing. So if you have any questions about my own experience, I'm happy to share. You're welcome to reach out. And then I'd also like to make a pitch for our next info session with Mort Anusharavani, who is my father, but he is also a water municipalities expert with a lot of experience. And he's going to be giving a sort of water municipalities 101 sort of presentation, so that, you know, those of you who may go cross-eyed at trying to understand the difference between, you know, stormwater and all the other waters that exist, this is, which I guess includes me now too, should attend this presentation. It should be fun. Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you. So here's the ABCs that are recruiting right now. We've got 2 that are actually due tomorrow. So if you're interested in the NCPRD and Milwaukee Center Advisory Board, or the Parks Advisory Board, which Mark serves on, which is for not NCPRD, but for the Clackamas County Parks. Those are both due tomorrow if you're interested in applying for those. So keep that in mind. We'll send those out in our follow-up email as well. So I would like to, at this point, open the floor for announcements.
Joseph, I have an announcement.
Jane, please.
I would like to let the membership know that sadly we've lost one of our voting members. Annette Adams has passed away last week on the 18th of August. Her son has sent this message that she passed of natural causes. Annette was caring, loving, and passionate. She loved animals. She was an amazing cook, and she cared deeply for the community. She lived on Woodland Way, and the family is holding a memorial this Saturday. It will be very small service. So if you knew Anne, you could reach out to the family, and I will post a email for her son. You could reach out to him. Also, that she loved animals, and the family is asking that donations be made to the Oregon Humane Society.
Jane, thank you for sharing that. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Jane. Do we have any other announcements from the floor? Okay. With that, just look at our upcoming schedule really quick before I turn everybody loose. We have our next meeting on September 22nd, and then October 27th will be the meeting where we expect to have the Oak Lodge Governance Project present on their study. And then December 1st will be our combined November-December meeting. And so that'll close out the year. And we have a October 4th board meeting is the only one that's really scheduled so far, and we'll determine the November-December date at that time. So with that, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. It's great to see all of you. And Valerie, you're welcome to stop recording. And feel free, everyone, to stick around for what I think will be kind of a short social.